There are some very good reasons why subcompact single-stack 9mm pistols are the most popular self-defense handguns on the market today. They are easy to conceal and comfortable to carry all day, but you still get the effectiveness of a full power service cartridge. The downside is that most of these pistols deliver recoil that's right on the edge of what most shooters can reasonably control. That affects speed and accuracy and can even make practicing with these guns feel like a chore sometimes. With that caveat in mind, there are 3 pistols I typically recommend as being the best of the ultra compact 9mm: the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield, the Glock 43, and the Walther PPS. Of those 3, the PPS delivers the least amount of recoil and is by far the easiest to shoot, but it's got a couple of quirks that make it less than ideal for a lot of people. Last year, Walther addressed those issues with the updated PPS M2. The most substantial change was the mag release. For the M2, Walther switched from a paddle-style mag release on the trigger guard to a more traditional mag release button on the frame like what most of us are used to. Walther also discarded the removable back straps that would disable the gun when removed and replaced them with a completely recontoured grip that feels less blocky and I think is more ergonomically sound. The front strap still has finger grooves, which I'm not a big fan of, but they are fairly subtle and should not get in the way for most people. I was glad to see that my favorite feature from the original PPS remained on the M2, and that is the striker indicator. When the trigger is pulled, the little rod protrudes from the back plate on the slide. This is so you can put your thumb on the back of the slide when you reholster, and if something were to catch your trigger, like a drawstring or a piece of your shirt, the striker indicator would poke you in the thumb to let you know that something's wrong before you get an unexpected bang. A large percentage of unintentional discharges occur when reholstering the gun, and this feature goes a long way toward preventing that if you take advantage of it. Another feature that sets apart the M2 from its competitors is the magazines. Walther makes 6-round flush-fitting mags and 7 and 8-round extended magazines. As far as I know, Walther is one of the only companies offering a single-stack 9mm with factory magazines in 3 different sizes and capacities. The only real downside here is that the M2 is not compatible with magazines from the original PPS. I've got just over 1,300 rounds through this PPS M2 with no malfunctions. I cleaned and lubed it when I first took it out of the box and haven't done any maintenance since. It does have some weak ejection patterns with lower pressure FMJ range ammo, and sometimes the spent casings end up hitting me in the top of the head rather than flying off into the right, but that's really a minor annoyance and the gun has functioned fine otherwise. I mentioned that the PPS is easier to shoot than the other 9mm of this size, and I would attribute that to less felt recoil and a grip with more surface area. This gun is just the slightest bit larger than most of its competitors. It's probably bigger than what you would consider a pocket pistol, but that extra size makes it easier to hang on to, and there's just less movement when the gun goes off. I also think the trigger is better than most, especially after the first couple hundred rounds. It breaks at around 6.5 pounds and has a more consistent feel than other striker-fired triggers. Now, it's not amazing or anything, but for small pistols like this, the bar is set pretty low for a decent trigger. The bottom line is that it's easier to get a good clean trigger press without disturbing the sights on the PPS M2 than it is with other pistols in this category. So how much of a difference are we talking about? You might get some idea from looking at our ongoing handgun scoreboard. When I ran the Walther PPS M2 through the official Lucky Gunner handgun performance test, I managed to get a final score of 40.48, which is almost exactly halfway between the current top and bottom scores on the list. I have not run many other small subcompact handguns through this test yet, but the Walther is looking pretty good so far. It was clearly a better performer for me than the Glock 43, even though I didn't quite manage to top any of the full-size or compact handgun scores. The 25-yard bench rest accuracy test results were okay, but not great. The best 5-shot group size averages were around 4 inches with the Black Hills and the HST 124 grain plus P. Oddly enough, the American Eagle FMJ was not too far behind them, followed by the 124 grain Gold Dot, and then the other 2 HST loads we tried were just not grouping that well. So this is just a good opportunity to reiterate the importance of testing your carry load with your carry gun to make sure they play nice together. The PPS M2 did not have outstanding accuracy from the bench with all the loads we tested, but I think the practical accuracy is plenty adequate. It's definitely easier to shoot accurately unsupported than most small handguns. I think it's tough to find any major faults with this pistol except that the gun is not very left-hand friendly. The slide release is only on the left side and the mag release is not reversible. A few people have asked me about the issue where the trigger bar contacts the barrel and leaves a little dent. I honestly don't think it's really anything to worry about, but if you want to know more, I've got some details about that on the blog post. So if you are looking for a slim, concealable 9mm as a primary carry gun that you will still want to shoot at the range, the Walther PPS M2 is definitely one of the best options on the market.